When I entered first grade, just like my sister and brother before me, my parents gave me an allowance. And remember that this was a long time ago in ancient times. I got every week on Saturday a quarter for my allowance, 25 cents. And along with the quarter came the responsibility now of having to either wash or dry dishes in the evening, taking my turn so that every third time was mine, and I had to make my bed every day and keep my bedroom picked up. Those were my responsibilities, and if I didn't follow through on those, I lost some of my allowance. That was part of the deal as well. But my parents not just wanted to teach us responsibility, but they also wanted to teach us the mystery of gross and net, which many people, when they get their first paycheck, look at and go, what happened? You know? Because they thought they were working for this amount and they only got that amount, you know? Taxes get taken out. Well, my parents didn't take out taxes, but on Saturday when we got our allowances, I got 25 cents, and there was a little plastic container on top of the bookcase in the hallway with my name on, like my brother and my sister, and we had to put some of our allowance in there. I had to put in a nickel every week. That was my piggy bank, my savings. And then, also on that bookcase in the hallway were 3 boxes of children's envelopes with St. Louis Mount Clemens written on the outside. And so another nickel went in there for the Sunday collection the next day. And so I received 25 cents as an allowance and had 15 cents to spend. Now, I just want to point out that back when I was a little kid, you could buy a big candy bar for a nickel. And somebody reminded me yesterday that you could go to the movies and get popcorn for 15 cents too. So, you know, it was worth a whole lot more then, Helen, than it is now. So hold out for more when they start giving you an allowance, okay? In any case, you know, you may wonder, well, why is he talking about his allowance? And I have to say, you know, if you look at the readings today, they talk about the use of this world's goods. And you know, in my former life, when I was a pastor, this would have been the Sunday I gave the annual sermon on the amount. I would stand at the pulpit, and I would have it written out in front of me, and I would stick to that text because I wanted to say these things and wanted to make sure I didn't leave something out. And people always knew that if I stayed at the EMBO, they knew what was coming next. But I'm not the pastor. It's not my problem. That's his. I don't have to do that. But I am the preacher this Sunday, and again, the 3 readings talk about sacrificial giving, and you know, how can you have those readings and preach on them and not talk about that topic? So that's why where I'm going, you know, because, again, we all have been given gifts, and the question is, how do we use them? And that's an important thing. In that first reading, the widow of Zarephath, that nameless widow, who is actually one of my heroes, you know, she has almost nothing, and the prophet asks her to give him that. And she looks at him, and she's not even a Jew, because did you hear that? She said, as the Lord your God lives. Not my God, yours. But she recognized him as a prophet, and he said, well, don't worry, there'll always be enough. You know, I don't know about you or me, but my first reaction would be, no. You know, but she looked at him, and she said, okay. I'll take you at your word. And you know, I find that an amazing act of faith. And it's one that's inspired me over the years. Because in truth, you know, I've never had all I've wanted, but I have never, ever, ever been in need. There's always been just a little more in the jar, a little more in the jug, and no matter what the situation, there was always a little bit more. And somehow, I really believe, as my parents used to say again and again, God does take care of us. There was always a little bit more. In the gospel, we hear the story of that nameless widow again, that Jesus is watching them as they take up the collection. You know, at every one of the 7 entrances to the temple, there was a collection box. There wasn't just one, there were 7 of them, and he was sitting opposite one of them and watching what everybody was putting in, and I think, really, Jesus, didn't you have anything better to do? You know? But that's what he was doing. It would be like him standing, or my coming down today when they passed the basket, and just kind of watching from side to side, you know? But he's watching, and what is amazing is what he notices is that little bit that nobody else would have paid attention to. He recognized in just the way she looked, you know, that here was a woman that had nothing. And she trusted that God would take care of her. And she gave it trusting in God. You know, in the second reading, we hear about the Lord Jesus who gave his life for us, who entered the temple of heaven with his own blood as his gift back to God, the sacrifice of his love for us. And he did that once and for all, which is what we celebrate here, that great gift of love. And he taught us the way of love, which is a way of giving. And that's an important thing, my sisters and brothers, to keep in mind. You know, some people will say, well, how much? Do we have to give everything? And obviously not. Obviously not. Those 2 nameless widows stand as an ideal far beyond what most of us are capable of. And that's okay. You know, we also have responsibilities. And I'm going to say neither of those widows had a great responsibility except the one to her son, and we don't know how old he was. But they trusted God, and that's what we're invited to do as well. To trust God and give of ourselves, because ultimately that's what we've been taught by the Lord. How much? No one can say. And is it just money? Absolutely not. You know, I often think that it's easy to give money. You know, if something comes up, I can give money. In fact, it's kind of like always when it was time to buy Christmas presents for my nieces and nephew. You know, my sister would do the shopping, and I would just open my billfold and said, take whatever you want. As long as I don't have to do it, I'm fine, you know? It's easy to give the money. But sometimes what's really required is the gift of my time, of taking the time with another person to spend time with them in their need, maybe in their loneliness, maybe in their struggle, maybe in their sorrow. But to give someone the gift of my time is an important gift along the way, worth more than money oftentimes. And to share with others my talent. You know, whatever it may be, to share that with others willingly, because the gifts we've been given as human beings are not just for ourselves, not just for those around us, but for the greater world as well. Each person was given to this gift to enrich this world. And somehow we're asked to give the gift of ourselves away, as the Lord Jesus taught us. You know, as far as monetary gifts, I've always operated on the theory of a tenth. The scriptures talk about a tithe, the 10% of what you have. And that's a good one. You know, that's certainly what my parents taught me already in first grade and through all of my years in school. You know, that I was expected to give back some of what I have been given. And it's a lesson that stayed with me all through my life. And again, I can tell you that I've tried to do that, and again, I've never been in want. There have been times, I always think back when I was first a pastor, and I would make out my bills at the beginning of the month, and I would always make out my envelope to church. And I would put the check in, and I would put the envelope in the letter holder on the top of the desk. I never put that envelope in until the last Sunday of the month, because that was my fallback. You know? It was sometimes tight, but, again, there was never a time that I was ever in need. And I believe that that's true for all of us. If we are willing to share the gift of our time, the gift of our talent, the gifts of ourselves, and even some of our treasure, that in the giving, we learn so much and others gain. Because in the end, my brothers and sisters, I've said this to you the last several weeks along the way, and I believe it is essentially true. At the end of our lives, we will not be judged by our sin, rather by how much we have loved in this world. In the end, love shows itself in many ways, but it always shows itself in some form of giving. And that's what we are all called to do. Because in the end, my brothers and sisters, you and I both know that no matter what we gain in life, we don't take it with us. But what we do take with us is what we've given away. At the end, like the Lord Jesus who entered the temple of heaven and presented the gift of his own life back to his Father, you and I will enter and give what we have given back to God. In the end, it's the lesson my parents tried to teach me that I still try to practice. That it's not what you gain in life that matters. What will matter always in the end is how much we have given. And that's what we're all called to do, no matter what our circumstances, no matter what our station in life, we are all called to share the gift of ourselves with those in need.